This is Harry Gines, the first black man of reparations in U.S. history, coming to you today with another presentation of The Invisible Man. Today, we've seen quite a bit of police brutality and what has happened as a result from such incidents of police brutality involving Mr. Floyd. But yet, Harry Gines is someone that brings his perspectives, his history of African American descent, and it should be known that the technology of the 21st century makes most things that seemed impossible very much possible in the 21st century as far as communications are concerned. In other words, I'm 62 years of age, and in my lifetime, I've seen a lot. Had it not been for technology, it would have more likely been just a local incident between police and the black community, being an individual, arrest, and brutality issued on the part of the police. That's very common, even back in the 20th century. But yet, through technology, it just goes worldwide. Yet, when we look at the invisible man, Mr. Floyd, he's not invisible. No, he's not. And this is not to be disrespect. To be declared an invisible man is something that the world must recognize. Ralph Ellison depicted the Negro of the United States. Certain individuals were said to be invisible. Mr. Ralph Ellison, in his way of explaining someone whose society could see the Negro, but yet he was invisible. So when we look at Mr. Floyd, rest in peace, we are left here with men who are invisible. Now, what does that mean? It means that I have in my background Muhammad Ali, someone who is known throughout the world. Now, as we know, Muhammad Ali is no longer with us. We know this. And it's not because he's deceased. Muhammad Ali represents boxing, sports, and he represented African descent globally. Now, how is it that a man like Muhammad Ali could be invisible in a time of Mr. Floyd? What can we learn from Muhammad Ali, who could be invisible, but yet society, even when he was the champion alive, he was still invisible? Now, if I can explain that, today you will hear many presentations based on the life of Muhammad Ali. But as I explained, he is invisible, and not because he's deceased. In other words, U.S. blacks, as well as blacks globally, they really don't follow Muhammad Ali. No, they don't. They don't pattern their life after Muhammad Ali. Not really. You see, he took a stand. He took a stand that most people went along with, being drafted into the military. Now, he used his religious belief to exercise his constitutional rights, to not be subjected to have to be part of a military, a United States military at the time, fighting in Vietnam. Now, things come to pass, and as Muhammad Ali, who fought the United States government to have his rights not to be subjected to military draft. But like I said, we don't follow Muhammad Ali. We don't do that. We have plenty of documentations, and, everybody always wants to do a documentary, on Muhammad Ali. But yet no one really follows him. Not really. And that is why I say Muhammad Ali, in the era of Mr. Floyd, is invisible. There are things that we could do peacefully that would be recognized globally. In other words, where I'm going with this is Harry Gines versus the United States is a legal case that gives each individual born of African descent their rights under Lincoln. See, the world has never seen what Abraham Lincoln set forth. That never happened. Abraham Lincoln set forth the free black man in the United States to have 20 sections of the United States Constitution. Now, those 20 sections are not known throughout the educational system. I mean, you could go in higher learning and find such things, but the president who succeeded Lincoln done away or repealed all the writings of Abraham Lincoln. So the world has never seen a true United States black as a free person. No, you could never say that a United States U.S. black has had their rights under Abraham Lincoln. That's never happened. So when people speak on reparations, and Harry Gines versus United States has a legal case that sets forth a position for all U.S. blacks to have the right to exercise the 13th Amendment fully, as Lincoln set forth. That is what Harry Gines versus the United States does. Now, the link with Muhammad Ali is fitting because, as I said, we are a small class of people who are not followed. We're not followed because if you followed Muhammad Ali, then you would recognize your slave name is something that the whole world looks at as strange. You bearing your slave master's slave in the 21st century, you still hold on to that. Muhammad Ali recognized that. That's why he's Muhammad Ali. That's his name. Originally, he was Cassius Clay. But as I said, he's invisible. He's invisible because he was able to prove in the highest court in the United States that he has the right not to be drafted in the United States military. And Lincoln also did not have an interest in a black man being drafted into the United States military. You could enlist in that day of time of Lincoln, and you can also enlist in the 21st century. You can enlist. But the drafting part is something that needs to be clear. And it needs to be known to the world that it's not right to draft any U.S. black, period. There's no law giving you such a right to do so. Now, with that being said, and the purpose of it, like I said, you do not follow Muhammad Ali in the sense of relinquishing your slave name. You do not follow Muhammad Ali like that. Nor do you follow Harry Gines, who has depicted the 13th Amendment in its entirety as Lincoln set forth. You do not follow Harry Gines in that manner. No, you don't. So because you will not allow yourself to be educated as Lincoln wanted for U.S. blacks, you will always come to a point in the 21st century where you will be stuck. That's what will happen. You will be stuck. You will leave so much on the table because you didn't know when you went in there what all is set forth. Police brutality, as I said, dates back really to Jesus. If you wanted to go back to police brutality, it's a common occurrence. But only because of technology has the world recognized the imbalance of justice. How a black man is treated versus how a white man is treated at the time of arrest. So if these things come to pass and you continue on the course that you are, focusing on police brutality, and you should focus on it. But always remember, you have an opportunity in a legal case to set forth your position. Because if you go in there and you're not clear what you're asking for, you're asking to be treated equal. Harry Gines versus the United States never mentioned anything about you being equal to a white man, because it's not even fair to you to be equal to a white man. Neither side will find a justice in being equal. Neither side will. You must recognize that you are a descendant of a slave. That's true. So how would you ever come to the conclusion that a white man could ever treat you equal? Lincoln knew that. That's why he wanted an independent black man. And you have never been independent, period. You get your education from a white man who does not educate you on Lincoln. If you were educated on Lincoln, you could never take the position that you take today. It wouldn't be possible. See, even those who are skilled and talented, for you to be equal to a white man, that doesn't make it fair. Even though you have got all the education, you own all the businesses, the black man, you very well off. But it's not fair for you to be equal to a white man, not in the United States. Lincoln knew that, because as a black man who considers himself to be elite or rich, prosperous, it's still not fair to you. You should pay less taxes at all times, never being equal to a white man. So it's to your advantage under 3/5, and 3/5 is in the Constitution right now today. It's there for a reason, because it could never be fair for you to be equal to a white man. In fact, let's make this perfectly clear that Lincoln was a segregationist. And because you live in an era of Martin Luther King illusion, that's the era that you live in. That you live in an illusion to be equal to a white man. That is what it says. Martin Luther King brought forth desegregation. Prior to Martin Luther King, the country was segregated. So actually, you haven't been from segregation very long compared to the time frame of Lincoln versus Martin Luther King. It just in wrong number. You really haven't even, the world hasn't even seen what you can do as an individual. Not really. They see only those who are skilled and talented. Those are the only ones they see. Because unless you can make a white man some money, why would he be interested in you? You were a slave. So a slave had to be skilled. That's where the value comes in with a slave. Now, you being free, in a sense, without the protection of Abraham Lincoln, those rights, you've just been at the mercy of a white man ever since. Living in an illusion of Martin Luther King. I have a dream. That's all it's been, because you really are not supposed to be around white people at all, other than working. That's the condition that they slaughtered you in. They slaughtered you in a condition of economics. How could you serve the country economically? And you was doing it already as a slave. So the independent black man he's never came forth. Not even to today. You see, because unless you have land as the Native American Indian has, he has a land. It may not be what he wants fully. No, it's not fully what he would want, but he does have a land. And a man without land, let alone bearing a slave master's name, but yet you say you're free. Yeah, that's kind of confusing for the world to understand that. How can you want to be so free, but yet you still hold on? You hold on to that slave master's name. That's something for you to think about, because I've already laid foundation. Muhammad Ali and Harry Gines are a small class of people who have been to the United States Supreme Court and have been granted a U.S. certiorari. That is a small class of people. You would have to go back to people like Dred Scott, to actually slot Harry Gines. But it's not about me as much as it is for each individual to recognize that. It doesn't necessarily take a class action. Of course, the case is in my name, yes, but it does not take a class action to declare your rights under Lincoln. You need only use Harry Gines versus the United States. I put myself in front of you so that you will know that. Just like you would quote Roe versus Wade. Now, you ain't got no problem understanding your rights to kill an infant, a fetus. You have no problem understanding that. You can really understand that case, the killing of a fetus. But yet, when you have Harry Gines versus the United States, you claim it's complicated. It's only complicated because you haven't been educated to know what Lincoln set forth for you. And that is what Harry Gines dissected Abraham Lincoln's 20 sections of the 13th Amendment that never even appears in any of the U.S. textbooks. Now, how can you possibly say there's some fairness with that? You don't even tell the people what Lincoln wrote. So they never really even had a choice to recognize what's best for them. I mean, if you just think about it, you would think working for a white man would be better than working for yourself in a time of Abraham Lincoln, when you could have worked the field yourself and took your own harvest to market. That's what Lincoln wanted for you. He didn't want you working for no white man. What's the point? You've already done that. And yet today in the 21st century, that is what you do. You continue to work and work for a white man and eluding your rights to Abraham Lincoln. Now, like I said, segregation wasn't that long. And it doesn't divide the country per se. It's still the United States. And my position doesn't change. I have over 40 videos. My position don't change on none of them. And that includes the knee. Don't change nothing. You have no legal position with it. It's a good thing to bring people together, but in a military sense, that is not what I personally would do in light of Las Vegas. Now you think about that from a military standpoint. It only takes one person, as they claim happened out in Vegas. Now I'm not trying here to advocate no violence, but the smart thing to do is to stay law-abiding and know your position. Being on your knee is not a position, and it leaves too much out when going forward to deal only with police brutality. Now, am I trying to piggyback off Mr. Floyd? No, I'm not. I've been doing this for over 30 years. It's just that I'm invisible. Through technology, only through technology, am I able to bring to you your rights. Now that might sound kind of strange. I'm bringing you your rights, but that is true. It's just that simple. I don't like to reiterate myself over and over on a subject. I really don't like to do that, but if I have to, I will. I will reiterate over and over your position. You don't have a position on your knee. That's nothing legal other than the fact you have a right to protest. But again, when you make sure you're protesting, make sure you're not leaving out the necessaries so that you can fix something and you ain't got to come back later on asking for something else. Now, today, it must be understood, Muhammad Ali is the invisible man. Now, something has to trigger in your mind. Like I said, Muhammad Ali was an individual who went to the U.S. Supreme Court. Harry Guines is an individual who went to the U.S. Supreme Court. Both of us, in a small class, were granted a U.S. certiorari. Now, that makes, yes, it does make me very proud. It does, because there are a lot of people who talk, and they're in mainstream media, but they don't have a U.S. certiorari. And I don't want to sit up here and say, well, because I have that, but however, I do and they don't. It's just that simple. So some people say I brag or, I boast about it. Yes, I do. I'm very proud of myself, and I should be. 30 years, and I'm still maintaining the position. Now, if we went back further under good attributes, because you can find a lot of reasons not to like somebody. That's how you are. You as blacks are like that. They'll find every reason not to like somebody. But that don't change the fact. Now, when I mentioned Muhammad Ali as being invisible and you not following him, but yet it always comes that we don't give enough respect to the past. And that could be the problem. We always have these documentaries that come up Black History Month all the time, but yet some are eluded or they never seem to make it. they have taken the Honorable Louis Farrakhan off Facebook. They did that. And because of that, that will take away a lot in the sense of who he's been the gatekeeper of, being the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Now, the minute you mention the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, shut the video off. No, we're not going to shut the video off. We're going to look at the good attributes of men. Men who came along representing, but they never got really followed. But if you look at the good attribute, there you will find that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad traveled the path of reparations. You will find that. And he knew Abraham Lincoln writings. Yes, he knew that. And he knew, he grounded himself in his way of looking at you as blacks. He grounded himself in the 13th Amendment as his rights. So that is something that I can say, if you took away Louis Farrakhan, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, that link could be very a missing link. Not invisible, because like I said, Louis Farrakhan is not invisible. No, he's not. Nor is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They're not invisible. It's just that you choose not to follow their path of good attributes. That's all a man can ask for. I mean, don't read over my gravestone my sins, because you got some too. But yet, at the same token, if you really was serious about what you're doing, you could quote Harry Guines versus United States the same as you quote Roe versus Wade. And the path, you can get it. I mean, I added case law, whereas the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, like I said, they both met in a sense. It's just that as one becomes more educated and more aware of the court system, Harry Guines was able to surpass the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in his way of representing reparations. Harry Guines was able to do that. I made it. Now, whether you want to, pat me on the back or have a parade or just shun me, it won't matter. It's there. And there will always be somebody who just might say, is that true? It is true. Now, the courts won't, some things the courts try to keep from you. And for a long time, like I said, if it wasn't for technology, I wouldn't be here, because I saw no way possible to announce to the world that truly I am the first black man of reparations. That's true. You can Google it. I mean, in a sense of Harry Guines versus United States monetary award, everything needs to be known and brought out. There's no secret. There's no secret. It's there on Google. And Harry Guines versus United States, writ of certiorari, granted, is on Google. So if you believe the internet, and you should believe the internet on some things, I'm here today to tell you the truth, my side of the case. And it was granted a certiorari. So because of that, you should know I have no lies for you, just a position. And that position under Lincoln would require segregation. You see, how you going to tell me that something is better in the 21st century? Some things are better in the 21st century, but how are you going to convince me that something is better in the 21st century when I came out of the 20th century to know better that the neighborhoods are dilapidated? If an earthquake was to hit the inner city, you think you got a pandemic, you'll have a whole lot on your hands with all them old buildings that ain't had no mortar tucked in it since it was, built. There's no mortar in between those bricks. Those bricks you probably, if the earth shook just a little bit, it all come tumbling down. See, you haven't seen a world at all that a black man could build. You haven't seen it. Not in the 21st century. You haven't seen that. I can build you a world you've never seen before. All this flooding that comes about with the three rivers, the Missouri, the Mississippi, and the Merrimack. That region where those rivers come together has never been dammed. You see, I could build you a world like you've never seen. Now, Donald Trump, he say he can build a wall, but he ain't never done it. So Harris say he can build a dam at them rivers. A lot of energy there. And this is the 21st century. Practically anything is possible, practically. But the control of water and current, yes, it is possible. Now, I'm going to leave you with that so that you will understand. You hold back the nation of U.S. blacks who could be far better off with segregation and assisting you as a white person dominant in this country. But not in the sense how you are today. You would have to recognize something, that by law, we are only 3/5 by law. That's how it was set up. I can't change that. But I can invoke it in the sense, and it has been done. The U.S. Supreme Court, it's up to the people to make law. I give you one. Ask yourself this one question. If you want technology, but yet you don't want it when the people are walking around with devices and they're recording police in their acts of brutality. There's a law came out about that, that you shouldn't be doing that. You can't, do a video on police whooping on somebody. You can't do that. It's a law out now. See, that's part of the problem. Who are those people who would agree to something like that? You see, in knowing that you're taking technology away so that it could be abused, but yet you want to put some cover on it where you don't want it being seen. Rodney King, if it hadn't happened, when somebody happened to have one of them videos, recorders, then the world would have never known anything about Rodney King. He just been another black man getting hijacked. So, in saying that, keep in mind, people make law. That's how it happens. Now, how would you accept knowing that it's a helpful thing to have that device on everybody, but you want to take it away? Ask yourself, who created that law? And then those are some people you might want to go after. Because I don't remember voting on anything like that. See, some things need to be voted on. I'm not trying to change the country, but some of the laws that you can come up with is just amazing that you would want to do something like that. And I would like to know the people who would set forth such a law. I would like to know some names on that. So as you go through this, the point being today, don't get where you're trying to get to and leave something out. This is Harry Gines, and it's always my pleasure to give my perspective, the truth. Always remember, people say they want the truth, but if you gave them the truth, they wouldn't follow it. Remember that.